Welcome back. A little breaking news to pass along here. Maricopa County in Arizona has announced that Lori Vallow Daybell is on her way. They are extraditing her from Idaho. She faces, of course, trial for the murder of her fourth husband, Charles Vallow, and for the attempted murder of Brandon Boudreaux. The Sheriff's Department there in Maricopa County has scheduled a news conference for noon local, 2 p.m. Eastern time. We, of course, will carry it there. We were just talking about this. When is she going to be standing trial? So once she is extradited, then she'll make a court appearance. Trial date will be set, we assume. Let's bring in criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Jack Rice. He knows the answers to all these questions and more. He's in St. Paul, Minnesota. Jack, good to see you. So finally, they're shipping her off, and she'll be spending the winter in Arizona, which a lot of people like to do, just not in the Maricopa County Jail.
Yeah, well, normally you drive yourself or fly yourself in there. I think it didn't quite play out that way in this case. Lori Vallow Daybell is certainly looking at life in Idaho. We already know that. The real question would be bringing her down to Arizona. What does that mean next? In fact, even some people ask, what's the point if she's already doing life? Well, frankly, Ted, the answer is simple. If you're facing a charge for the murder of somebody, the idea is justice in the very broadest sense. And so therefore, the idea for Arizona is to say, if you did something in our jurisdiction, we're going to prove that you in fact did it, and you're going to pay the price for it. So we'll see exactly what that means. And then, of course, after that's over, she'll be back in Idaho, or maybe Arizona, or maybe nobody will ever let go of her.
Yeah, I assume Idaho's going to want her back eventually, but we'll see. She's facing this conspiracy to commit murder. Her husband, fourth husband, Charles, we remember he and her were splitting up. She was hearing these voices. He was so concerned, he called authorities multiple times, and it came down to, he was so worried he changed the beneficiary on his life insurance. He was concerned for his life. And then Alex Cox, the family assassin, according to prosecutors, ends up shooting Charles in the home there in Arizona, in the Phoenix area. Lori wasn't there, but she's being tried for conspiracy to commit murder. So she was out of the house when this shooting took place. How does that work? Where, I mean, she wasn't there. Isn't that a good defense? That, I mean, how are you going to get her when it was Alex? He admits to it. He was the one with the gun. Tylee was there, told police that, you know, her and mom had taken JJ out. How do they know that she was responsible?
Yeah, that's certainly going to be the argument for the defense in this case. And it actually carries a lot of weight if you think about what it means. If you can create that space, you're always running the seam, if you will, trying to say, when I find some space between something, how do I widen it? And that is exactly what the defense will do. However, what the prosecution has in this case is something called 404B, the idea of prior bad acts. And by the way, it isn't just prior bad acts, it can be post bad acts too. So in other words, all of these other things that she was already convicted of are likely going to come in. The defense is going to argue these are more prejudicial than probative. It doesn't prove that she committed this crime, that she killed this person. But what you'll get from the government is somebody who's capable of killing is capable of killing. They won't say it that way, but that's exactly what they mean. Once a bad person, always a bad person. They never argue it like that because that's not admissible. You argue it in a slightly different way because the jury's going to look at it, and isn't that what they always think?
Yeah, and we saw it play out in Idaho. No one has ever accused her of actually killing anybody, much in the way of Charles Manson never killed anybody, but she was the ringleader, according to the state of Idaho, and we'll probably hear a similar narrative there in Arizona. To what extent will the Arizona and the Idaho crimes, you mentioned it, without them, one could argue that she's got a pretty good shot here. But there are two things that the state has. If they, let's say they don't get all that in, they still have Charles on body camera multiple times, talking to police, fearing for his life.
Oh, I think so. I think it shows motive. It really does give a context. I mean, the idea in many cases, this is the fight we always have when we're trying cases. We're looking at trying to keep out as much evidence as possible. And evidence, some of it's relevant, some of it may not be, to say, let's focus in on what happened in this particular incident to prove that this crime was committed. I mean, we could compare this, if we want to, with the young thug case that we're watching right now, because what you're seeing is all this extraneous, and you could certainly argue extraneous information that has nothing to do with the crimes themselves, comes in to sort of muddy up the person. And that's the potential. If you can keep all of that out and you say, we have this woman, are we suggesting somebody who was somewhere else is somehow involved in the murder of a human being? And if you excluded everything about these other prior bad acts, that gets very challenging for the state. Very challenging for the government to prove their case. That's why they have to lean into it so much. Sometimes that really highlights the weaknesses in their case. Frankly, we compare this again to the young thug case. The reason we're seeing the government wrap themselves around all these prior bad acts is because actually their cases are weaker than they want to argue. But if they bring in all the other stuff and say, once a bad guy, always a bad guy.
Yeah, and you do have the other part of the equation, the murder of Charles Vallow. That's tough to prove because this was articulated as self-defense by Alex Cox on body camera video. They'll hear from Alex and they'll hear his side of the story. And if you don't think a murder took place, it'll be tough to connect. We should also point out, apparently she is in Arizona. She was booked this morning, just being told here. So she had made the trip over the last few days here, presumably. It's at some point and booked in there this morning into the Maricopa County Jail, and the sheriff will have a press conference again at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Hopefully we'll get more information on timing, her first court appearance, and how this plays out. So Jack, back to the first question, you alluded to it. If I'm a taxpayer in Arizona, why are we paying for this?
You know, that is always the question, but we've seen this before so many times where you'll have people charged with multiple acts, multiple different crimes, and once you get them on one, isn't that enough? But you know what? If we think about this, this isn't ever about any charge. Is never about the individual themselves, about their family. This is actually about the government as a whole saying, we are doing this on behalf of the people, and we're not counting dollars when we're making these decisions. This is about holding people accountable for the things that they do. And so individually, the purpose is to say it's a broader question, a societal question, and we're willing to invest in order to do that. Now, the problem that comes with this is there will be some people who will say, who cares? In the end of the day, aren't we already where we're trying to get to? Shouldn't we reprioritize our resources? Because we've already got her forever. And I think there is some validity to that. But sometimes what you'll get is, if all you really want is the admission, right? Let's think about the young woman who was killed in Aruba, which you brought the man back from South America because they wanted the admission. Maybe this provides some closure, and yet you do have to ask yourself, these trials will cost hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars. And if you have limited resources, you can only spend $1 once. Should you spend it again and again? This is a question that goes way beyond my pay grade. I'm just me, you know, Ted. I'm just like you.
Well, you could also argue that it could be sort of, worst case scenario. I don't know how this would happen, but let's say her Idaho case is reversed on appeal down the line. This is sort of an insurance policy, right? To have her facing this as well, which we could, bring back to the Murdoch case. So, the financial crimes is a sort of a backdrop. Now we know he's in for 27, that kind of mentality. And the victims too. I mean, Kay Woodcock is the sister of Charles Vallow, and she and Larry Woodcock attended the trial in Boise, Idaho. But they talked a lot about Charles, and they also, at the end of it, they said, we are looking forward to Arizona because we want to, we want her to pay for Charles's death. And there's a look at her new mugshot. in Arizona that was just released moments ago. There she is, Lori Vallow, with a look on her face and looking into the camera. Jack, the Woodcocks, they'll be front and center on this baby, and that's part of the equation too, is it not? The victims.
Oh, without question. In fact, they should be. They're supposed to be. When we think about any successful prosecution, what you always have to remember is that it's also about humanizing the victims, those complaining witnesses, those survivors. Because what you need to do is you need to be able to drive this jury to say, we need you to care about this like we care about this. If what you're talking about is an abstract set of facts, well, what you're going to get then is, well, you know what, we can debate facts. What you can't debate is pain. What you can't debate is the horror that a survivor feels. And if you can articulate that, if you can provide that to a jury so they empathize with that, it drives them emotionally to move. It's like any decision when you convince somebody to do anything in the world, you want them to emotionally, viscerally do it rather than intellectually do it.
The case against her, again, the major charge is conspiracy to commit murder in the death of Charles Vallow, her fourth husband. When police showed up after Charles had been shot by Alex Cox, Lori was there. She shows up as well, and she does not seem overly distraught that her ex is dead. Take a listen.
We just moved in here.
Gotcha. How long have you guys lived here?
I'm sorry?
How long have you lived here?
Like 3 weeks.
Oh, geez. Yeah, okay.
That's why the neighbors don't know us there.
Gotcha.
Like, hi, neighbor, sorry.
Are you working at all?
No.
Okay. And you're still about 5'6", 120?
That last little bit of that video, I don't know if you picked it up, Jack, where she turned and she said, what? That was Tylee. And there's lots of body camera video of Tylee and her in different settings, including some at the police department. And it's heartbreaking because that young woman was controlling her, or telling her mother to settle down. Lori didn't have a filter, and that's what was coming out there. It'll be interesting to think. So, again, she's not there. Her daughter is not there. It's just Alex Cox and the victim. And Alex tells the story about a fight and self-defense. In fact, let's listen to Alex, and then we'll get you to weigh in on how the state's going to be able to prove this.
I turned around, and he hit me in the back of the head with a bat. So I went to my room and got my gun that I always carry.
You went to your room, meaning the room you're staying in?
Yeah.
Okay, and you brought a gun with you?
Yes.
Do you always bring a gun?
I'm a concealed carry always.
Okay.
Just to be safe.
Hi, who are you?
Hi.
Okay, just stand over there for just a second, guys.
All right, so that's Alex talking about his rendition of events. Jack, how difficult is this case going to be at the end of the day for the state?
It's going to be challenging if they can't get in all of these prior bad acts. In fact, if I'm defending in this case, honestly, I'm fighting like a cat in a bag to try to keep everything out. Everything. Because in the end, my argument is a simple one. You should find her guilty if you can prove she committed this act. What you're really going to try to do is you're going to try to bring in everything else to say you acted as you always act because you're a murderer. And so therefore, that's what you did in this case. And that isn't the standard. That's not what the jury should be looking at. But if you look at all of that information, and if you look at how evidence sometimes works, we see prior bad acts, we see various things that come in support. We're watching it right now, and this can happen. And so likely the prosecution is already keying up the reasons why, showing motive, showing other justification as to why these other issues are relevant and must come in. It strengthens their case so substantially because a jury will look at something like this and say, this is possible because this is the kind of person that she is. It's not what it's supposed to be, but that is the reality of how I think many people look at the world. And I've looked lots and lots of jurors in the eyes over 25 years, and I've seen them do it again and again and again.
Yeah, and it's one thing if the jury knows that this was the ex-husband. It's another if the jury knows that this is the mom that was convicted of killing her children. And
You're capable of anything.
Yep.
Right? You're capable of anything when you do that. And again, that is actually the argument that the defense will make to keep it out. Because if I know that that's what she did, she'll do anything.
Right. All right, let's get a break. Again, the breaking news, Lori Vallow Daybell has arrived in Arizona in Maricopa County. We are expecting a press conference, 2 o'clock Eastern time, noon local. And there's the mugshot, her new mugshot, her just released moments ago.